Hi there, my name is Ferret and I'm here to take you through the yoga sequence that is used in Joel Greene's The Immunity Code book. Now in the book he describes going for a yoga flow before bed every night, which is downward dog for 3 breaths, cobra pose, child's pose, uttanasana, forward fold, and then repeat this twice, ending with an ancestral squat. So what I thought I'd do is take you through this sequence, but teaching you how to do the poses in a safe way so that you don't injure yourself. If you're new to yoga, or if you just feel like you might need a little bit of help with this, then I'm going to do a beginner's sequence first, with some modifications for people who might even struggle to get into downward facing dog. After this, we'll go through a flow that you can use once you've built up your strength, once you've done the beginner's flow a couple of times and you're feeling strong, then you might progress to the second version. This is really similar to Sun Salutations Surya Namaskar A, which is used in Ashtanga Yoga. Alright, so if you are going to follow along, one thing that you might find useful is to have a blanket or something underneath your knees. So, instead of starting in your down dog, for your beginner's sequence, and we'll do this twice, and then we'll go through the slightly more advanced sequence twice as well. So, come onto some kind of padding for the knees, if you feel like coming to all fours is going to be a little bit of a struggle for you. And we can start off by just warming up the wrists. Your hands are going to take on quite some weight in your downward facing dog, and if your wrists aren't ready for it, wrists are really the thing that kind of get the most grumpy in yoga. So warming up the wrists is a good idea. You don't have to do much here, just a few circles in one direction and then switch the direction of your circles. You don't need to have a yoga mat. I'm going to assume that a lot of us won't if we're just reading the book and giving it a go. It's always nice to have a yoga mat, but any kind of bit of carpet or space in your home will do. Now, bring yourself down to all fours, and we'll start by having a look at this downward facing dog. So curl your toes under, bring your pelvis back towards your heels, take your hands one hand space forward, and a test to see if you're strong enough for down dog would be to reach your fingertips forward, tent your fingertips, and then draw your ribs away from the floor, rounding through the shoulders, strong core, pulling the ribs up away from the floor, seeing if you can hold here. If you find this a struggle, then try this for a while instead of down dog. Otherwise, bringing the palms down, gripping the fingertips into the mat. We're going to go for external rotation of the arm bones to keep your shoulders in a happy place. So elbows pointing back towards the knees when you bend them instead of pointing out to the sides. You'll see a lot of beginners come into their down dog like this, with the elbows going out to the sides. So we want external rotation of those arm bones and a strong press into the hands. When you have that, lift the knees off the floor, and your down dog could start with arms straight, hands pushing into the floor, belly touching the thighs, knees generously bent. We're here for 3 breaths, so we'll do one more, and you might see if you can straighten out the legs from here. After this, bring your knees down to the ground, so we come back to that all fours position, and then help yourself to come down all the way to your yoga mat. So you want to be lying prone. You can bring your forearms down first, and then step yourself down to the floor. Release your feet, press your toenails into the ground, and squeeze your glutes, squeeze your butt cheeks. From here, bring your hands underneath your shoulders, and if you're learning and building strength in your Cobra pose, we're actually going to take the hands off the floor. So roll the shoulders up, back and down, scapula are on your rib cage, so shoulder blades back. And then lift the hands off the floor, squeeze in between the shoulder blades, and lift yourself up just as strong as you can using the muscles of your back. So glutes are on, toes are pressing down into the ground, legs are energized, and you're lifting into your baby cobra, Ardha Bhujangasana from here. Placing the palms down, press yourself back, we come into that child's pose. So it's up to you, you could have your knees together or you could take your knees wide, especially if you're making a bit more room for your belly. Sink your pelvis down towards your heels and slide your fingertips forward so we can take a breath here in extended child's pose. Look forward towards your fingertips, bring yourself back up, walk the knees back underneath you, curl the toes under, and then from here we're going to step up into a forward fold, Uttanasana. Now, what I see a lot of is the emphasis on straight legs and trying to touch the toes, which leaves a lot of people like this. And that's no good. That's not where you want to be. It's actually not going to get you very far. So instead, bend the knees generously. Bring your belly to your thighs, so your belly is touching your thighs. And if you need to, you can take up a bit of space by widening the feet. From here, when you get into your forward fold with the knees generously bent, then working on straightening the legs once you have your belly on the thighs. It seems counterintuitive, but I promise you it will get you further than having your legs locked, your knees locked, and trying to touch the floor. You're not actually getting anywhere with that. So, bend the knees, bring the belly to the thighs, even if that means you bend the knees a lot, because you know we want that ancestral squat anyway, right? And then allow yourself to fold forward, and eventually in time your fingertips will come down towards the floor, you'll sink lower, and then once you're here, some people even slide their hands underneath their feet, and then straighten up the legs from here. So to progress your forward fold more, bend your knees more. I promise you, you'll get better results. From here, we're going to press strong into all four corners of the feet and roll ourselves up to standing. Keep the knees soft as you go. And just roll out through the shoulders. You can shake out the legs, shake out the arms. I promised you to, so we're going to do that one again. So come down to all fours. And if you want to do that in a yoga-y way, then you can inhale and reach up. Exhale to fold forward, soften the knees, bring yourself all the way down, planting the palms, stepping one foot back, bring the knee down, and then the other. So coming back to your all fours position, curling the toes under, bring the pelvis back towards the heels. Take the hands one hand space forward. The distance between your hands and your feet is important in downward facing dog. From here, we're gripping the fingertips into the mat. Maybe we lift the knees off the floor, and for the longest time, your down dog might look like this. And then slowly lifting the sits bones higher as you build strength through your arms. Slowly sinking the heels down lower as you build up the length in your hamstrings and the mobility in your ankles. So remember, you could be here for the longest time. All right, last breath here. No yoga teachers can count breath, by the way. All right, from here, we're going to bring the knees to the ground. Slowly lower yourself down. If you need to bring your forearms down to do that, go ahead. Come all the way down to the ground. Roll them shoulders up, back and down. Slide the hands lower down the rib cage. Squeeze your glutes, your butt cheeks. Press your toenails into the ground. Lift yourself up into Cobra. This is your baby Cobra. In theory, you should be able to take your hands away from the floor. So don't be lifting up like this with straight arms dumping into the lower back. That is not a Cobra pose. So, technically it's a yin pose called seal, but we're not doing that today. From here, we're going to press back into that child's pose. Bring your fingertips down, press yourself back, pelvis towards your heels. Knees could be wide or knees could be hips distance apart. Take a breath here in your extended child's pose, opening up through the shoulders. And then to come into our forward fold, bring yourself up to all fours. Curl the toes under. You can either come to that downward facing dog and walk forward, or just step one foot up and try and step the other foot up. Keeping those knees bent, belly to the thighs. Sink your head low. You can give your head a little shake here, gentle.
Shaking your head no thank you, nodding your head yes please. Letting your belly rest on your thighs, taking a wider stance if you need. And then go for straight legs once you feel like you've got that fold part. So get your fold part first. And it's actually contracting your hip flexors that's going to draw your upper body down towards your legs more. You can even give your legs a hug. Pressing strong through all four corners of the feet. Soften the knees, drawing that low belly, roll yourself up to standing. Whew, shake it out. So we'll go through the more I've been practicing yoga longer version of this, which I'm going to include Chaturanga Dandasana. If it's not for you, then do the first version of lowering yourself down to the floor. So stick with your first kind of beginner's version as long as you need to, and then when you feel ready, you can try this next one. If you have a yoga mat, come to the top of it. Inhale to reach up, look up. Exhale to fold yourself forward, soften the knees, draw the low belly in. Plant the palms and step back into plank pose to get the measurement for downward facing dog, so shoulders over the wrists. And then from here, pressing strong into the floor, finding a broadness in the shoulder blades. Find your downward facing dog for 3 breaths. Draw the lowest ribs in, engage your core, your low belly draws in, push the hands into the floor, spread your shoulder blades apart, relax your neck. You can send your drishti to your feet or your belly button if you like. Your drishti, your focus, where you're looking. Alright, and then from here, roll yourself forward into plank pose. And then from plank, lower yourself down Chaturanga Dandasana. Or if this is too much for you right now, then just gently lower yourself down to the floor the way that works. Roll the shoulders up, back and down. Slide your hands lower down the rib cage so your thumbs are level with your lowest ribs. Press the toenails into the ground. Squeeze your glutes and lift up into your Bhujangasana Cobra pose. Elbows are bent, not locked, and you're hugging the elbows in. Your butt cheeks are squeezing. All right, from here, press it on back. Child's pose. Taking a breath in your child's pose. Come up just enough to curl the toes under. Lift the pelvis back to your down dog so you can walk your feet to your hands. Come into your forward fold, Uttanasana. Here you can keep the legs as straight as you like if you've built up to a position where you can keep your belly on your thighs. You shouldn't be able to get a cigarette paper between your belly and your thighs. Alright, from here, press strong through all 4 corners of the feet. Soften the knees, roll yourself up to standing. Shake out your legs and arms. And we're going to do that flow one more time. Inhale, reach out, reach up. Exhale to fold forward. Plant the palms, step back into plank so that you get your measurement for downward facing dog. So you want to have your feet and hands in the same position for plank. And when you come back to down dog, don't be tempted to walk the feet forward. Keep it long. Downward facing dog for 3 breaths. Inhale for 1 and exhale. Inhale for 2 and exhale. Inhale for 3, exhaling. Roll forward into your plank pose, come down to the floor. Press the toenails into the ground, roll the shoulders up, back and down. Lift into your Bhujangasana. Make sure you're squeezing your glutes. The bum wiggle is optional. And then press it back to your child's pose, reaching the fingertips forward. Now I would like to sneak in an extra here. If you're into it, go for it. Reach your hands to the right hand side. Draw your left hip back away from your left shoulder. Relax through the neck. You get a wicked side stretch here. Walk your hands through center and over to the other side. Working your right hip away from your right shoulder, relaxing through the back of the neck. Breathing into the right side of your lungs. And then walk your hands back through center. Curl the toes under, lift up to downward facing dog. You can hop to the top if you like, or walk your feet up. You can try walking with straight legs if you like. So you can make this your own. This is your practice. Taking a forward fold, maybe giving those legs a hug. Maybe sliding your hands underneath your feet. Sliding your hands underneath your feet is nice because then you can reach your heart forward like you're coming to a halfway lift. Alright, and then from here, press strong into the feet. This is the end of our sequence, so rather than coming up, we're going to sink the bum down low and come into our ancestral squat. Now, there are different ways to do this, so you might find that when you come down into your squat, it isn't possible for you to bring your heels down onto the ground. This is really common because this is quite an extreme dorsiflexion of the ankles. So you might find that your ancestral squat is here, and in which case you can use, I have yoga blocks, you might have some books or something to help you out so that you've got some support here, because in the beginning, coming into that squat position might be really difficult. Now there are different ways to squat. You can squat down with your feet down and your knees, feet and knees kind of together. Or widening the feet and turning the toes out to the sides. I'm wearing funny socks today, so hopefully you can see. Squatting down to the floor, you can bring your hands to the floor. Again, your heels might be lifted here. This is malasana, so this is a hip opening pose. So you get the benefits of the squat, but also the hip opening. So you might be able to bring your elbows inside the knees, pressing the knees apart, planting the palms and pressing the palms together. Now the key here is to not let the inner arch of the foot roll in, but to slightly lift and activate the toes, lifting the arches of the feet. Now malasana, or your squat pose, is really easy just to kind of hang out here once you have the flexibility. So the key to this pose, to make it work for you, is to act as if I've just asked you to almost stand up from here. So pressing the knees apart with your elbows and then lift your butt as if you're about to stand up. Now your legs are working. And this makes this a really beautiful hip opener. So see if you can hold this for another 3, 2, and 1, and then release. All right, you're ready for bed. Good night.